Welcome to MTTS.
We're going to talk about some popular entrepreneurs.
First up, we have Declan talking about Glenn Bell.
Glenn Bell was the proud owner of the iconic Taco Bell. He was born on September 3rd, 1928. His parents are Ruth and Glenn Bell Sr. He went to school in San Bernardino, California. His first job was a hot dog stand named Bell's Drive-In. He never went to college. Before he founded Taco Bell, he started with two other restaurants. Taco Tia and El Taco are the two restaurants that led up to the founding of Taco Bell. Glenn Bell started a partnership with KFC. Did you know that Pepsi Company bought 868 Taco Bells in 1978? Glenn Bell founded Taco Bell on March 21st, 1962. Taco Bell is the fifth most popular restaurant in the world. Taco Bell is also sponsored by the National Basketball Association. Did you know that Taco Bell meat is only 88% real meat? He got married in 1955. He invented the taco shell in the 1950s. He worked so hard to make his kids have a good time growing up. Gary Bell, one of his children, became a Major League Baseball player for 12 seasons in Major League Baseball. Sadly, Glenn Bell passed away of a heart attack at the age of 86 on January 16, 2010. His final resting place is in Rancho Santa Fe. He was outlived by his wife, Martha Bell, and their four kids, Gary, Rex, James, and Andrew, and two out of his three sisters, Dolores, Dorothy, and Maureen. Back to you in the studio.
Wow, thank you, Declan.
Next, we have Liam talking about Bill Gates.
We know Bill Gates as a goody two-shoes who donates a lot to charity. But let's take a look at what happened before this. First, we will look at his early life, then his life at Harvard, and finally, him at Microsoft. Bill went to two middle schools and was immature growing up. But first things first, he was born in Seattle, Washington, and was born on October 28, 1955. Once his middle school discovered his coding ability, they let him help in writing the class schedules. Then he slightly altered the programming so it was only in classes with girls he liked. Bill Gates created his first app in high school. This app helped stay away from traffic and was called Traffic Data. All of these events helped lead up to Bill's college life. Speaking of so, let's take a look at his college life. At Harvard, Bill was a bit more mature and got very good grades. Bill Gates never attended class, but he still got A's, and only once did he get a C+. Bill enrolled in college in 1973 and dropped out in 1975. In 2007, Bill Gates finally got an honorary degree from his alma mater. These events led up to his lifestyle. When Bill founded Microsoft, he partnered with Paul Allen. Microsoft was founded by them on April 4th, 1975. Gates used to own the most shares of Microsoft and be CEO, but now he is not CEO and Steve Ballmer owns the most shares of Microsoft. Bill Gates only owns 4.6% or 33 million shares of Microsoft. There I have it about Bill Gates and Microsoft. So now you know about Bill's early life, his time at Harvard, and his work with Microsoft. Back to you at the studio.
That's so cool. After all that, he only owns 4.6% of his company?
Next, we have Phoebe telling us about Larry Page.
Do you know who Larry Page is? Larry Page was the CEO and co-founder of Google. With help from Sergey Brin, they created what we call Google. Lawrence Edward Page was born in East Lansing, Michigan in 1973. He has two siblings, Carl and Beverly. His parents, Gloria and Carl, were both computer scientists. He attended a Montessori school in the primary grades, then he graduated from East Lansing High. First, he attended college at the University of Michigan, followed by Stanford University, where he met a soon-to-be business partner, Sergey Brin. One of Larry's quotes is always deliver more than expected, which is exactly what he did. You can do all sorts of things on Google, like online advertising, search engine, etc. Google processes about 40,000 search questions per second. On December 3rd, 2019, Larry and Sergey stepped down from their roles as co-founders of Google. Handing the business to Sundar, who was Google's top executive, Larry Page got married to a research scientist named Lucinda Southworth. The couple had two children. Larry Page was the CEO of Google. With help from Sergey Brin, they made Google what it is today. What would we do without Larry Page, the creator of one of the most used search engines in the world? Thank you. Back to you in the studio.
No wonder why he wanted to create Google.
Now we have Annika telling us about Charles Lazarus.
Do you know who Charles Lazarus is? Charles Lazarus is the inventor of Toys R Us.
His business came to be the #1 toy retailer for decades, and Lazarus became one of the nation's most successful entrepreneurs. Charles Lazarus's early life experiences and his love for toys led to his company's success today. A lot of interesting things happened before and during the life of Toys R Us. He was widowed by Helen Theron Kaplan, his wife of 16 years, who was a famous therapist before she died of cancer in 1995. He started Supermarket for Toys before he had even gone to college. Lazarus was born October 4th, 1923 in Washington, D.C. These experiences led to his success in the future. Lazarus started Toys R Us in 1948. Back then it was called Supermarket for Toys. The business started in his father's basement. At the time, the toy business made him a lot of money because of the popularity. Lazarus's early start in the toy industry brought us a successful company we all know and loved. Toys R Us has seen a lot of prosperity over the years. Toys R Us drove two of its biggest competitors to bankruptcy in the 1980s, and by the 1990s, its sales hit $4.8 billion. Toys R Us grew to over 1,450 stores and grew 30% in profit each year. Lazarus said, "I like to have an expanding type of business." Along with that, he said, "I like opening stores." Lazarus's company became very well known and was shopped at a lot. Sadly, on June 29, 2018, all stores shut down due to bankruptcy. The cause of this is Walmart and Amazon's gain of online users. Charles Lazarus passed away at the age of 95 on March 22, 2018, with his success and glory traveling with him. Let's head back to Phoebe and Dylan in the studio.
Wow, he really does like opening businesses. Next, we have Kylie talking about Ray Kroc.
Have you ever thought of who created McDonald's? Ray Kroc is the founder of McDonald's. Ray Kroc's earlier jobs and his love for the food industry helped make McDonald's successful. Ray Kroc had other jobs before he created McDonald's. The first job Kroc had was an ambulance driver for the Red Cross. His second job was a salesman for Lilly Tulip Company. Then after Kroc spent 17 years selling paper cups for Lilly Tulip Company, he went to sell multi-mixers for an ice cream shop. Those were all his jobs before he created McDonald's. Have you ever wondered why Kroc created McDonald's? When Kroc was a kid, his dad took him to a phrenologist who said he could predict the future by looking at the bumps on Kroc's head. A phrenologist is someone who can tell a person's character and traits by the shape of their head and skull. The phrenologist said that Kroc would work in the food industry, and he turned out to be correct. This meeting with the phrenologist inspired Ray Kroc to start learning about the restaurant business. So that's the reason Kroc created McDonald's. McDonald's has been extremely successful. McDonald's has a lot of employees. In fact, they have about 1.7 million employees worldwide. They feed about 68 million customers per day, and they sell 550 million Big Macs annually. Well, now you know who the creator of McDonald's is. Ray Kroc's earlier jobs and his love for the food industry helped make McDonald's successful, one of the most successful fast food restaurants. Thank you. Back to you in the studio.
Wow, I guess the phrenologist was right then.
Finally, we have Dylan talking about Steve Jobs.
Do you have a phone or listen to music? If you do, it is most likely an Apple iPhone or iTunes Music. Did you know that Steve Jobs bought Pixar from Lucasfilm, and he had the most shares until Disney bought it in 2006? Steve Jobs' parents were Joanne Schiebel and Abdolfata Jindali. When he was born, they put him up for adoption without a name. Claire and Paul Jobs adopted him in 1955, and they named him Steve Paul Jobs. Steve was always interested in computers because he would spend most of his time in his neighbor's garage who worked at Hewlett-Packard Company. Steve got bullied in school, and he clearly couldn't take it anymore because one day he came home and said that if he didn't transfer schools, he would never go to school again. When he was 12, he saw his first computer and knew he wanted to work with computers. Steve went to Reed College and dropped out in his first semester because he didn't think that college was going to help him figure out what he wanted to do with his life. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak created Apple when they were only 21. If Steve Jobs were alive today, he would have about $38 billion. In 1983, Jobs fought with the board of directors and got stripped from all of his power and control. Later on, he sold all of his stocks and resigned in 1985. When Steve was 56 years old on October 5th, 2011, he died from rare pancreatic cancer. Jobs fought for a decade with pancreatic cancer. Without Steve Jobs, we wouldn't have the Apple we know today. Back to you in the studio.
How could he get kicked out of his own company? That's all.
Well, for today, thank you for watching MTTS. See you next time.
Welcome to MT Studios.
I'm Zach,
And I'm Katie. Today we have Maddie,
Kai,
Zach,
Katie,
Isaac.
and Chase, all talking about very interesting topics.
First we have Maddie talking about the creator of Mary Kay Inc., Mary Kay Ash.
Mary Kay Ash started Mary Kay Inc. and is known as the most successful businesswoman of the 20th century. She had a challenging childhood and was disgusted with the male domination in the business world. So she started her own business for female empowerment and for women to create their own success. Mary Kathleen Wagner was born May 12, 1918 in Hot Wells, Texas. She was the youngest of 4 children, Delia, Daisy, and Cecile. When she was 2 years old, the Wagner family moved to 6th Ward, Houston, Texas. When she was around 3 years old, her father was diagnosed with tuberculosis. Shortly after, he was sent to a sanatorium. When she was almost 7 years old when her father returned, her siblings had moved away, so it was her job to support and take care of her father while her mother worked a 9-to-5 job. She was educated at Thornton Elementary and later moved to Regan High School. When she was 17, she married Ben Rogers, whom she had 3 children with. To support herself and her family, she sold child psychology books from door to door in 1939. She joined Stanley Home Products. She organized and demonstrated products at private home parties. During World War II, Ben joined the Army and left. She continued her sales job and finally saved enough to enroll at the University of Houston. In her first semester, Ben called home and asked for divorce. Though the marriage was not very happy, she was still embarrassed and sad. After she had trained a man at Stanley, he was promoted higher than her. She quit out of anger and moved to World Gifts in 1952. She started Mary Kay Cosmetics, later changed to Mary Kay Inc. She started her business with her 20-year-old son and a life savings of $5,000. She opened her first 500-square-foot store in 1963. She started with 9 consultants and based her company on faith, family, and work, and the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. She also based her company on female empowerment. She has a lot of incentives. In 1969, pink Cadillacs were given to the top beauty consultants. Diamond bee pins were another incentive to keep consultants doing their best. In 1980, her late husband died of cancer. So in 1999, she started the Mary Kay Foundation to support cancer research and cancers affecting women. Sadly, Mary Kay passed away in 2001. She died peacefully in her home at the age of 81. She died of natural causes but had been feeble in health ever since she suffered a stroke in 1999. But she can be remembered by her famous quotes such as, aerodynamically, the bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly, but the bumblebee doesn't know, so it keeps on flying anyway. If you come to a roadblock, take a detour. Don't limit yourself. Many people limit themselves to what they think they can do. You can go as far as your mind lets you. What you believe, remember you can achieve. Do you know that within your power lies every step you ever dreamed of stepping, and within your power lies every joy you ever dreamed of seeing? Within you lies everything you ever dreamed of being. Become everything God wants you to be. It is within your reach. Dare to grow into your dreams and claim this as your motto, let me be. We can also remember her by her impact in the world of business and the world of women. Thank you, and back to you in the studio.
Well, I didn't know that she was the most outstanding businesswoman in the 20th century, and now we have Kai to talk about Jeff Bezos, the inventor of Amazon, one of the most used online shopping websites.
Thank you. Have you ever bought a product off of Amazon? Do you even know who founded it? Well, if not, it was Jeff Bezos. Amazon is one of the largest companies in the world. Originally, it only sold books, but now it sells next to everything. However, Bezos' life was immensely different before Amazon. It made him and his family very wealthy. Bezos isn't the same person he used to be. His life is very different. Jeff went to River Oaks Elementary and later graduated from Princeton University. He job hopped, meaning he had many jobs before he became the founder and CEO of Amazon. He was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico on January 12, 1965. All in all, Bezos had a normal life. Then Amazon happened. When Bezos started Amazon, everything changed for him. Bezos makes about $2,489 a second. That's about $149,153 a minute and $8,961,187 an hour. And that's about $78.5 billion a year. He currently has about $115.6 billion, but he had $117.7, so he's been spending some of his money. As you can see, Bezos' life has changed greatly. Jeff is a large family. He and his ex-wife Mackenzie Bezos had 4 children. His brother is Mark Bezos and his sister is Christina Bezos. His parents are Jacqueline Bezos and Ted Jorgensen. His stepfather, Miguel A. Bezos, later married Jacqueline. All throughout his career, his family supported him. Jeff Bezos is a very successful entrepreneur. He has made a lot of money off of Amazon. His family was there for him even before Amazon was invented in 1995. But the greatest thing of all is Amazon. It helped Jeff on his journey to become a billionaire. Back to you.
Whoa, I didn't know Amazon was invented in 1995. It's really that old? Next we have Zach talking about something you might use, Netflix.
Have you ever wondered who invented Netflix? Well, that was Reed Hastings. Reed Hastings has 2 children and is married to Ann Quillen. Some parents like Netflix, but some parents don't because that's all their child sits on most of the time. Netflix is a fun app that you can watch movies and shows on. Netflix even makes their own movies and shows. Reed Hastings made a company before he made Netflix. Then he met Mark Rudolph and they created Netflix. Netflix released their billionth movie in February 2007. Reed Hastings was born October 8, 1960 in Boston, Massachusetts, and went to Bowdoin College in Bowdoin, Maine, and studied math. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in 1983. He spent 2 years teaching math in Sweden, and then returned to the U.S. and went to Stanford University. Before he made Netflix, he made a company called Pure Software that was later sold off. Then he met Mark Rudolph, and together they co-founded Netflix. In 1997, they came up with the idea to create Netflix because they wanted to make something with movie subscriptions. Him and Mark Rudolph left the company in 2004 because Netflix's popularity was growing so quickly that they couldn't handle it. They decided to give the job to someone else. And in 2007, the company split into 2. For Reed's whole life, he wanted to make something successful. In 2014, Netflix won the Entrepreneurial Company of the Year. Currently, Netflix has over 60 million paid subscribers. Back to you in the studio. Did you guys know that he's been the director of Facebook since 2011? Now we have Katie to talk about Vans shoes created by Paul Van Doren.
Hi, my name's Katie Brunel. I'm doing my newscast on Paul Van Doren and Vans Inc. If you didn't already know, Vans is a shoe company that's been around since 1966. Did you know that Vans was originally called Van Doren Rubber? Paul Van Doren and his brother James Van Doren, who was the co-founder of Vans, started the business in 1966. They decided to name it Van Doren Rubber. Paul got the idea from his son Steve's love of skateboarding. The idea came when Steve put the Vans logo on the back of his skateboarding shoe. After seeing what Steve did, Paul made a skateboarding shoe for Steve. After making one just for him, Paul started making shoes for all of California. Eventually, he opened his first location in 1966 with his brother James Van Doren, his friends Ryan Emmer, Gordon C. Lee, and Serge D'Elia in Anaheim, California. It's no longer called Van Doren Rubber today. Now it's called Vans Inc. or Vans. There's 2 types of Vans, old school and slip-ons. Slip-ons are the popular type you see people wearing a lot today. The slip-ons were not designed by Paul. Old school is the closest to what Paul designed. And you guessed it, they're the older design of Vans. The Van Dorens no longer own Vans. Now the VF Corporation owns it, which they bought in 2004 for $400 million. Here's some fun facts about Paul Van Doren. Fact number 1. Paul has 2 kids, Stephen and Cheryl Van Doren. Paul worked at a place called Randy's in Boston, Massachusetts for over 20 years before becoming executive vice president there. Paul dropped out of school at 14 years old. Paul lived in the Boston area while growing up. He was born in 1930 and is currently 89 years old. Paul is 9 years older than his brother James Van Doren, and Paul sold 12 pairs of shoes in his first day in business. Vans became popular in 1977, but became internationally popular in 1982. Vans now sells t-shirts, shirts, hoodies, socks, hats, shoes, and even skateboards. Vans number 44 deck shoes became known as authentic. As you can see, Vans have changed a lot since 1966. People have always loved Vans and still do.
Here's an extra fact. Vans are 54 years old. You've all probably been to or eaten a Burger King, but you know David Egerton created it? We have Isaac with that.
David Egerton helped turn struggling Burger King into a massive food chain. He turned Burger King into what we know and love today. Mr. Egerton helped Burger King from childhood experience, teamwork, and he helped with continued success. David Egerton was born on May 26, 1927. His dad was an expert in heat treatment of metals, and his mom was a concert violinist. David Egerton served in the U.S. Army, attended Cornell University, and studied studied business at Northwestern. While he was at Northwestern, he founded a pie-making company. David Egerton's childhood helped with his success. Later, he became interested in the food business. Egerton met two entrepreneurs named Keith Kramer and Matthew Burns. They were trying to make a food chain called Insta Burger King. Egerton decided to cooperate with the entrepreneurs and persuade them to change the name to Burger King. They thought of an idea to have customers pay for their food before it arrived. That idea lost lots of customers at the time. Things weren't looking good for Burger King, but things were about to change. Things were not looking good for Burger King until Mr. Egerton got an idea. He stacked tomatoes, mayonnaise, pickles, onions, and ketchup on a burger to create the Whopper. And when it was added to the menu, it was a hit. This started a huge rivalry with McDonald's that continues to this day. In 1967, Egerton left Burger King and opened a small food chain of steakhouse restaurants in Miami. Egerton died April 3rd, 2018. Due to complications from surgery after a fall. He was 90 years old. Egerton helped turn struggling Burger King into a massive food chain. He helped Burger King from childhood experience, teamwork, and he helped with continued success. David Egerton turned Burger King into what we know and love today. Back to you in the studio.
Zach, have you ever been to Burger King?
No, but I didn't know all those facts. And now we have Chase talking about mac and cheese.
Imagine you're in December 11th, 1874, and you just saw a baby born. It's James L. Kraft. James L. Kraft was a businessman and inventor. He invented Kraft Foods. Do you know that the U.S. Army bought 6 million pounds of his canned cheese in World War I? Today, Kraft is one of the world's largest manufacturers. James Lewis Kraft was born on December 11, 1874 in Fort Erie, Ontario, Canada. His dad is George Franklin Kraft and his mother's name is Minerva Alice Tripp, and he has 10 siblings. In 1903, he moved to Buffalo, New York, where he attended business college while working as a janitor and selling eggs, cheese, and ice. Then he moved to Chicago for the rest of his life. Kraft went into cheese business in Chicago by purchasing in bulk from sellers. After an initial setback, the business started to prosper, and 4 of his brothers started J.L. Kraft and Bros in 1909. Kraft's major hobby was collecting jade. He set up a workshop in his home where he made rings for employees until a lot of employees forced him to turn into a professional jeweler. His interest and experience as a collector led him to write Adventures in Jade in 1947. Kraft received honors including several honorary documents and the Gutenberg Award of the Chicago Bible Society in 1952. He married Pauline Elizabeth Pratt in 1910, and they had one daughter named Edith Kraft. He died in Chicago on February 16, 1953. He was 78 years old. James and his brothers created J.L. Kraft and Bros in 1909, and in 1924 they changed the name to Kraft Cheese Company. In 1928, Kraft merged into Kraft Phoenix Cheese Company. The company then changed the name in 1945 to Kraft Foods to reflect the product mix. Kraft adopted the name Kraft Co. Corporation in 1969 and Kraft Inc. in 1976. In 1980, Kraft merged with Dirt Industries Inc. Corporation in 1980. In 2015, Kraft merged with H.J. Heinz Company. Kraft is one of the world's largest food and beverage manufacturers. Kraft is super popular. Kraft is everywhere and in every grocery store. Kraft is still merged with H.J. Heinz Company today. James L. Kraft is important because he invented Kraft Foods. Back to you in the studio.
Do you know that James L. Kraft invented mac and cheese? Kraft mac and cheese?
Thanks for watching MT Studios.
Hello and welcome to Tiger Stripe News with me, Sharon.
And me, Lucas.
Today we'll be talking about important entrepreneurs. First, we have Addie talking about Travis Rosbach.
Do you know who Travis Rosbach is? Travis Rosbach is important because he created the company called Hydro Flask. Many people use hydro flasks. They help keep water cool and refreshing. Travis Rosbach created a company called Hydro Flask. He got his idea in 2009 when they weren't selling plastic water bottles anymore because of health effects. Travis didn't know anything about water when he was creating the company. There are many different types of bottles. People usually buy the 18 or 24 ounce water bottles. They are made of a vacuum void between the two walls. It keeps hot water hot and cold water cool for more than 24 hours. The hydro flasks are very helpful and impressive. Travis Rosbach had a busy life after creating Hydro Flask. He became a yoga instructor and a meditation practitioner. He loves to travel, so he did a lot of that. He got married to his wife and had a child. As you can see, Travis's life was pretty busy after Hydro Flask. He successfully created his company, Hydro Flask, created very good and impressive bottles, and had a very interesting life after his business. Once again, as you can see, Travis Rosbach is an interesting and smart person for creating the company Hydro Flask. Back to you in the studio.
We sure need to stay hydrated with those facts.
Yeah, those were definitely some facts I didn't know. Now Ryan is going to take us to a galaxy far, far away with the amazing story behind George Lucas and Lucasfilm.
George Walton Lucas Jr. is an American filmmaker and entrepreneur. He is best known for the creator of Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchise, as well as the founder of Lucasfilm and ILM. George led Lucasfilm as the chairman and chief executive before selling it to Walt Disney Company in 2012. George Lucas was born on May 14, 1944 in Modesto, California. He was the son of Dorothy and George Lucas. Growing up, George had a passion for cars and motor racing. Throughout high school, he spent most of his time racing on underground circuits and fairgrounds and hanging out at garages. It was his passion that later inspired him to make films such as American Graffiti. Eventually, he lost interest in having a racing career when he was in a car crash that nearly killed him. In 1963, Lucas transferred to the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts. This school was one of the earliest universities to have a school devoted to motion picture film. He graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts Film in 1967. After graduation, he joined the military, but he was turned down due to having diabetes. Later in 1967, Lucas re-enrolled as a USC graduate student in film production. Lucas was awarded the student scholarship from Warner Brothers to observe and work on the making of his choosing. Lucas co-founded the studio American Zoetrap and produced his first full-length feature, THX 1138. It was not a success. Then Lucas then created his own company, Lucasfilm, and directed American Graffiti. It was a success. Due to his newfound wealth and reputation, Lucas was able to begin a story set in space, Star Wars. Star Wars quickly became the highest-grossing film of all time. In 2012, Walt Disney Studios purchased Lucasfilm for $4 billion and announced that they would be making more Star Wars films. Over the years, George Lucas has won many awards and been very successful. Thank you. Back to you in the studio.
You definitely blasted me away.
That was yodely awesome.
Now we're rolling on to Abby, who's talking about Tony Hawk, the creator of skateboarding, merchandise, and skateboarding tricks.
Do you know who Tony Hawk is? Well, Tony Hawk is a professional skateboarder and businessman. He has one main company called Birdhouse and a lot of foundations that help build skate parks for low-income towns. His life started on May 12, 1968 in San Diego, California. When Tony Hawk was young, his mother often called him a hyperactive demon child because he terrorized his babysitters, teachers, and his parents. He began skating at age 9 and competing at age 11. In his 17 years of skateboarding, he won more than 70 awards. Tony was very active when he was a child and caused a lot of damage wherever he went. Tony started Birdhouse in the early 1990s, a skateboard and accessories manufacturer, and Blitz, a products distributor. The companies were a success, and soon he became involved in other things. In 1998, he
he and his family started a children's clothing line that included pants, shirts, and hoodies. Tony invented a lot of skate tricks. The most recent one was the 900, which is a 2.5 twist in the air. It took him 10 years to make the landing of the 900. He finally made it at the 1999 X Games. He also invented the ollie to ing, the gymnast plant, the frontside 540 radio flip, and the saran wrap. Tony was very famous for all his tricks and stunts. Without Tony, we wouldn't have as many skate parks and accessories for our skateboards as we do today. Thank you. Back to you in the studio.
That was tubular.
That was very interesting. Now here's Devin running us through his presentation on Adolf Dassler, the creator of Adidas.
Have you ever worn Adidas clothing? Well, you can thank Adolf Dassler, the proud owner of Adidas. Adolf was born in 1948 on March 26 in Barven Milltown in Germany. He was born into a poor family. He first worked in a shoe factory with his brother and father, the owner of Puma. He was trained as a salesman and trading other leathers to businesses. His brother, the owner of Puma, was named Ruda. They tried to get money because they were very poor. Do you know when Adidas got their logo? Adolf didn't get the idea of creating a logo until 1967. It was published in 1971. Their logo is 3 stripes. They have put them on their shoes ever since. Adidas got their first big hit when they were sponsoring the German soccer team, and they won the World Cup. Since they were sponsoring, they got their store on the side of the banners in the stadium. Adidas is still expanding today. If you ever go to watch a game or on TV, you might want to look for Adidas on the side of the stadium. Unfortunately, Adolf Dassler died, but his business has been thriving ever since. Their family was very wealthy after everything he did. Back to you in the studio.
That was fantastic. I learned so much.
Those sure were some amazing facts.
Now Sharon is going to be TikToking about Zhang Yiming.
Have you ever heard about an app called TikTok? If you have, do you know who the creator is? TikTok was previously known as Musical.ly. TikTok is now one of the world's most famous apps in the 21st century, and is created by a man named Zhang Yiming. He worked with a company called ByteDance. Together, they worked to create TikTok, as well as other apps. In just 2 years, TikTok has already overtaken other companies in popularity. Zhang Yiming is now one of China's richest people. Zhang was born in Luoyang, China. Zhang was born on April 1st, 1983, and now he is 36 years old. Before fame, Zhang Yiming earned a degree in software engineering from Nankai University in 2005. So far, he has earned $16.2 billion. Before Zhang and ByteDance created TikTok, they also created other products like the news aggregator app called Total and other social networking apps. They also created a WeChat rival called FlipChat and a video messaging app called Douyin in 2019. These are some things Zhang created before becoming successful with TikTok. In just 2 years, TikTok had already gone higher than other companies in popularity, like Netflix, YouTube, Snapchat, and Facebook. There are more than 1 billion downloads on TikTok. If it wasn't for Zhang Yiming, none of us would have TikTok like we do now. Back to you in the studio.
Cool, that was fantastic.
Now Lucas is going to treat us with a story behind Bill Rosenberg, the creator of Dunkin' Donuts.
Bill Rosenberg is the creator of the iconic Dunkin' Donuts. There are a couple things about Dunkin' Donuts I bet you don't know. Dunkin' Donuts. Rosenberg was born in Boston, Massachusetts. He was one of 4 children belonging to Nathan and Phoebe Rosenberg. Rosenberg had a financially challenging childhood. He had to drop out of the 8th grade to get a job and support his family. Although he started off poor, later in his life he was very financially successful. Rosenberg's first job was at an ice cream truck. Then he created the Open Kettle. Imagine going into a delicious bakery and seeing a price of a donut and coffee, 10 cents for a coffee and 5 cents for a donut. That was the Open Kettle. Then in 1955, his life moved on to the start of the multi-million-dollar business Dunkin' Donuts. At Dunkin' Donuts, it is $2.25 for a coffee and $1.09 for a donut. When Rosenberg retired in 1988, he enjoyed horse breeding. He also married Bertha Greenberg. They had 3 children, Robert, Carol, and Donald Rosenberg. Sadly, Rosenberg died on September 22, 2002, of bladder cancer. Even though he has passed away, his business is still a big hit around the world.
Those show were some dunking facts.
Have a great day, and thanks for sticking around.